Alright, what's up guys? NinjaDeathStrike here, bringing you another random vlog. I did one of these a few months ago, I guess, about the state of competitive Pokemon and people who complain about tiering and Smogon and EXs and stuff like that. And then I don't do these regularly, but every once in a while things come up that I kind of want to talk about, and I feel like I need to explain more than just a Facebook update. And I like to get feedback from you guys too, so I have a few things to talk about in this video, mostly regarding the state of the game with the Pokemon trading card game, some things that have happened recently, and also what I've been doing, my decision to pretty much switch over to Magic at this point. Some of you guys might know that I've made the jump to Magic, but I've mostly just mentioned it, I believe, in my pack opening videos. So some of you might not be aware, but I want to share my thoughts about why that happened, and kind of compare the two, explain why I decided to switch. But first, there's a few just Pokemon things I want to talk about, mostly regarding the recent happenings at Nationals, both the Canadian Nationals and the US Nationals. As I'm sure you guys are aware, the Top Cut was not allowed to film any matches or do any streaming at Nationals. They could only do interviews, and they didn't even get very many of those. So that's a complete 180 from what they were able to do last year, where they pretty much had unrestricted access. Tons of matches recorded. I think they were even allowed to do the finals. I don't quite remember. Maybe they didn't get the finals. But they had a ton of matches, a ton of interviews. They streamed while they were there. Just really, really great coverage with live commentary, stuff like that. And it was really a big step, I think, in the right direction for getting some professional level publicity out for the Pokemon trading card game. And then this year they weren't allowed to do anything. So it's really frustrating to see Pokemon make that decision, and I briefly want to talk about maybe why I think they chose to do that. I haven't heard any definite confirmation about why they weren't allowed to, so if anyone knows, that would be great. But I kind of have to work off what I'm thinking happened. I could be completely wrong. I don't think I am. So I'm going to share my thoughts. Please feel free to comment about any of this stuff. I'd love to have a conversation about that. Anyhow, I think there's two reasons that maybe they disallowed it this year, and I don't think either of them are very good. The first one is as a response to the controversies surrounding Canadian Nationals. If you're not aware what happened at Canadian Nationals, there were some serious accusations of cheating, and the On the Bubble team was recording most of the matches for Canadian Nationals, and they actually caught the cheating on camera, and it caused a big deal because it happened during the Top Cut. And it looks like this player who was cheating was probably doing it the whole day, and there were a couple of people who kind of had some questionable at best shuffling methods, but one player in particular who flat out stacked his deck, and it's caught on camera and it's blatant. And I'm not sure what action has been taken, but the last I heard, it didn't sound like any serious injunctions were going to happen, which makes no sense. So first of all, there's the fact that there's not a serious punishment, which is just bad for the game. You can't let these kind of people stay in the game. Of course, that player feigned ignorance. They said that they didn't know that they weren't allowed to shuffle that way, but that is a very thin excuse at best. If you watch the video, he's clearly taking cards out of his deck and then putting them where he wants them, which is just flat out stacking your deck. That's not bad shuffling. But anyhow, regardless of whether he meant to do it or not, that kind of behavior from a player in the Top Cut cannot be tolerated if the game's to have any kind of legitimacy. So the fact that it wasn't enforced very strictly, both at the event and after the fact that it was caught on camera and came out, is just really discouraging. It's bad for the game. It actually encourages people to cheat. Like, if you're the type of person who's willing to cheat to win, and you see someone else get caught cheating and nothing happens to that person, like, is that gonna make you want to cheat more or less? Probably more. And if you're the person who wouldn't normally cheat and you see other people cheating and getting away with it, I mean, how frustrating is that for you? Like, that's going to encourage you to cheat because everyone else is cheating. You may as well. And I think that that's just a really bad situation for the game. So there's that, and then there's the fact that possibly that controversy had something to do with the Top Cut not being allowed to film. Now, this is a bit more of a stretch. I don't think that was the reason, but it certainly could have been part of the reason that the Top Cut wasn't allowed to film at U.S. Nationals. And if that's the case, it's even worse. Because not only are they not punishing the cheaters, they're trying to bury it. They're actually making it harder for cheaters to get caught. Because they're saying, well, if someone cheats and they get caught on camera, that's embarrassing for us. So rather than do our jobs better, we're just not going to let people film the matches. And that way, if the people get accused of cheating, there's no evidence. So it's almost like they're colluding with the cheaters to make it easier for them to cheat, easier and safer. And that's awful. I would think that anything that would be able to identify and remove cheaters from the game would be considered a positive, but apparently Pokemon's too embarrassed to admit that they made a mistake, and rather than admit that they made a mistake and that these people didn't get caught by the judges, they're actually going to punish the people who were doing their job for them, which is just ridiculous. If that's the case. And again, I'm not saying that it is. I don't think that it is, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. And if it is the case, they should be ashamed of themselves. The second reason, which I think probably is the more likely reason that they weren't allowed to film, is because it wasn't being done through Pokemon. It was from a third party wanting to film. And this is the reason that the Top Cut wasn't allowed to film the World's Championship, and I think it's probably the reason they weren't allowed to film at all at Nationals, which makes more sense if Pokemon were actually covering the event themselves. They weren't. They did have Jay Witz commentating the finals. I didn't hear how that went. I'm sure he did a great job. Jay Witz is great. And that's great. Like, that's good. If they want to cover it themselves, I understand not letting third parties in. However, they didn't. They didn't record. They didn't stream. Like, they had all of these options to get the media out that the Top Cut was willing to do for free, and they're like, no, you're not allowed to do that because you're not with us. But we're not going to do anything either. So just no one gets to see it, which is so dumb. Like, it's so basic logic, and it's such a Pokemon thing to just disregard all common sense and do their own thing, even though it's to the detriment of everyone. They did the same thing with the trading card game online, where they made the codes not redeemable. Like, you couldn't pick the packs that you wanted with your codes. I understand why they made the switch, but the way that they did it made no sense. They just announced one day, hey, by the way, next set, none of your codes work, and you can only get old cards with them. No warning, no, hey, this is going to be the last set that you guys can use those codes, so you might want to make sure you spend them. Just, next set, you can't use your codes, surprise. And it was just so infuriating because there are so many better ways for them to do it. And that seems like the case here. They want to start covering their own events, which is great. They should. But they aren't ready to do that, and they're preemptively cutting out the people who are doing it now, which is just a bad idea. If you're not ready to do it, let the Top Cut cover it. If you want Jay Witz to do a test run to see if it's going to work for Worlds, that's fine. Let him do it. But the two aren't mutually exclusive. You can still have that happen and let the Top Cut cover it. And then you still have the coverage. But, of course, no, it's Pokemon. They have to be control freak and dictate every little thing and have it go exactly their way and ignore the players that are trying to help them the most, which has just been a continued theme with them, at least when it comes to the trading card game. Not so much for the video games, but this is a TCG topic. So anyhow, that makes a great segue into the second portion of the video, in which I kind of want to talk about Pokemon versus Magic and why I think Magic does it better. So yeah, one big thing is the amount of feedback that the Magic staff and developers have with the community, and the amount of respect that the developers have for the players, versus in Pokemon where the players are almost treated as an annoyance. There's something that has to be dealt with rather than something that can contribute to making the game better. You know, it's a very unilateral decision process with Pokemon. We're going to make these cards, they're going to do this. If people don't like them, too bad, because that's what we're going to make. This is the set. These are the rules. Deal with it. If you have a complaint, too bad. You're not important. Just give us your money and shut up. That's the feeling I get from the Pokemon Company when it comes to the cards. And it's really unfortunate, and it's really off-putting, and it's one of the major reasons I quit. Magic, on the other hand, has a lot of, maybe not community development, but a lot of resources, a lot of ways for the community to give its feedback that's actually responded to. It's not just a blog or a message board that's, hey, post these complaints so that we can blow them off. It's actually the developers taking questions, responding to the community, talking about why they made the choices they made with the card design. It's just really cool to see coming from Pokemon. And maybe I'm looking through rose-tinted glasses here because I'm new to Magic. I think it's great, and maybe that'll wear off. But it doesn't seem like that right now, just based on what I can see. The Magic website, if you go to the Magic the Gathering website, they have daily blogs from developers. The new set, the new core set, is pre-releasing next week, and so all week they've been doing, these little surprises where they'll debut a couple cards, and they'll actually have the people who made these cards write an article talking about, why did I make this card? What's the thought process? Like, what is the exact thought process behind what went into making this card? What were we trying to achieve? What is its purpose? And even if it doesn't function, not all the cards they design are great, but being able to see what they were thinking and having them be open and willing to talk about that is mind-blowing, coming from a Pokemon player where everything is kept secret. And if you ask why, it's because I said so. Because that's how it is. Because we can't tell you. Like, everything is so secretive, and I don't understand why. They're trying to protect themselves, and they're just making themselves look so bad in the process. And it's just... it's mind-boggling who's making these decisions. So, the openness is nice, and that's really a breath of fresh air. But I also think the state of the game is just miles better than the state of the game for Pokemon right now. I don't know a whole lot of people who are happy with how Pokemon is played right now. The EX is just the speed of the game, the ease. There's just no thought process. It's bang out the biggest basics that attack for the cheapest and use catcher and laser and go first. That's it. That's the strategy behind it. There are not that many viable decks, and they all feel very much the same, with the exception of Blastoise. Blastoise plays a bit differently, but you have to cheat if you want to use Blastoise. So, most of the decks are just big basics, go. It might play different colors, but it's just get your guy and then beat with him, and that's it. And it's just no good. But that's what we're getting, and judging by the Chandelure EX card that leaked, that's all we're going to be getting in the next set. Unless they do something radically different, Black and White is going to be more of the same. Sure, the guys might be evolved now, but they're not. They're still basic EXs. They just happen to be from guys that evolve, but you don't have to evolve them, so it's a moot point. Another thing is the limited amount of format choice you have with Pokemon. You play Standard, or you play nothing. There's no sponsored events with prize support for anything outside of Standard. And then if you look at Magic, there are numerous different formats that all have prize support. You know, there is standard, and then there's legacy, there's modern. I mean, hell, the official Magic tournament has draft as part of the tournament. You're not even allowed to top cut unless you're good at drafting. Pokemon drafts are generally awful. Like, they put cards in the sets that you don't even have the full evolution line. You just get random guys, and it's just, it's dumb. Like, why would you put these guys in here when you don't even have the final evolution? And a part of the problem, and I think, is Pokemon is just harder to draft because you do need the evolution lines, whereas Magic, it's just single creatures. But Magic sets are designed from the ground up with draft in mind, and it shows. You know, not every card can be good in Standard, but there are cards that are all-stars in draft that you're really happy to pull. And even if you don't use it in your Standard deck, you get to use that card in draft, and it's good, and it gets use. You know, the amount of cards that are playable, or at least have potential to be playable in Magic, is vastly superior to the amount of cards that have potential in Pokemon, especially when you look at, like, the commons. There are numerous commons in Magic that are good. Like, good, solid cards, even outside of draft, in Standard. In Pokemon, at the common level, you have maybe a couple of basics that evolve into something good, and maybe some trainers, but most of the good trainers are at uncommon. So, in your Pokemon pack, the vast majority of your cards can go straight to the bin, and you'll never miss them. It's all about the rares, even the uncommons. The only uncommons that are normally good in Pokemon, with a few exceptions, are the trainer cards. Most of the uncommon Pokemon, again, garbage. Unless it's a Stage 1 that evolves into a rare Stage 2. And even Stage 2s are pretty bad right now. So you have, out of the average Pokemon pack, maybe 2 playable cards in Standard. And draft sucks. You know, I have heard that Plasma Freeze, right, that's the newest set, was pretty good in draft, better than past draft formats, but still, that's kind of, I feel like, more of a crazy random happenstance than an actual design decision where they plan, alright, what do we want our commons to be, what do we want our uncommons to be, what do we want the rares, and the ultra rares, like, how often do we want these cards to come up in draft? And that's how they work in Magic. Like, it's so much healthier, I think, for the game, because it gives you, one, a whole other format that is completely playable on its own. You don't have to play Standard at all. You can still enjoy draft. That's basically what I do with my friends. We don't go to, like, sanctioned draft events. We draft ourselves for fun. And you can spend, you know, you just buy 3 packs each, and that's a tournament. 3 packs. So it's cheaper, it builds your collection, it's actually fun, you get to use cards that you can't normally use. It's such a good idea for the game. I can't believe Pokemon has no interest in improving that. And then after you get outside of the draft, you also have Standard, which both have, with the rotation. And, you know, Standard's good. It's Pokemon, right now, it's not any good Standard, but at least we know it'll get better. And then the 2 things you have in Magic that you don't have at all in Pokemon are Modern and Legacy, which are basically unlimited formats. Modern is from the last 10 years, I think, and Legacy is the history of the game. And even then, there are very few banned cards. There are some, but compared to the amount of cards that exist, there aren't that many banned cards. And it just gives you options. Once your cards rotate out, they don't immediately become worthless. You can play them in Modern. You can play them in Legacy. Even, like, with my friends, we don't play in tournaments. We just play with the cards we have. It doesn't matter if they're in format or not. And you can do that with Pokemon too, but I feel like Magic, the cards remain more relevant and almost less broken. Like, it's always broken if you have a whole format, but in Pokemon, some of those cards together are just stupid broken. Where in Magic, there are some combos that just win the game, but there are ways to beat them. I don't know. It seems like just a healthier format overall, and that might be due just, again, to the evolution lines and the way that works. So it's not like Pokemon can just copy Magic, but I do think if they would keep these kinds of things in mind and put a little more thought into the way they develop the cards, they could make the game a lot better, both in sealed and in non-rotation formats, and actually make draft feasible. I'd love to see draft tournaments in Pokemon actually become like a legitimate thing, where you have a weekly draft at a card shop, and it's not who just busts open the ultra rare. So anyhow, those are my thoughts. That's what I'm thinking. Please feel free to share, agree, disagree, whatever you want. You can just think about your response. I'm not going to respond to stupid comments, even though this is YouTube. So yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching, guys. This went a little bit longer than I planned, but like I said, I had a lot to say. So feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned. I'll have more videos coming your way shortly. Thanks for watching, guys.